The Eye of the Midnight Sun led by Fauna advances on the witch's forest. Fauna sets the forest ablaze using her salamander's flame, and the Witch Queen is surprised, not expecting it to be so powerful. But what greatly worries her is that the Diamond Kingdom led by Ladros and Mars are also attacking with the intent of capturing her. Upon seeing Mars, Asta is relieved he is alive, and Fanzel likewise recognizes him as one of his former students. Despite not having the use of his arms, Asta declares he is going to defeat them both. Vanessa finally awakens to see her friends surrounding her, and she remembers that she came here to negotiate with the Queen. Asta declines her help and attempts to cancel out the curse himself with his swords, but to no effect. Vanessa chastises him for his recklessness, but he insists that this is the only thing he can do. Noel turns to the Witch Queen and says that if Asta's arms are healed, then he and the rest of them will prove to be worthy allies in the coming battle. The Queen considers this for a moment and concedes that the forest lacks the forces necessary to deal with 2 attacks at once. She heals Asta's arms with her magic, while Vanessa and Domina praise Noel for her handling of the Queen. While the Black Bulls deal with the invading Midnight Sun, Fanzel, Domina and Mariella will deal with the Diamond Kingdom. As the Midnight Sun destroys a giant security golem, Shidden sends his men to capture witches to sell into slavery. Asta saves a witch, but she ungratefully attacks him before flying off, so Vanessa apologizes on her behalf, as witches believe men to be inferior beings. Meanwhile, Domina suggests to Fanzel that they split up to engage the Diamond forces, and he reluctantly agrees, acknowledging that there is no other way. Using Vanessa's thread magic, Asta closes the gap between him and Shidden, taking out several of his mages in the process. Fauna blasts a ball of fire towards him, but he deflects it back to her. She unleashes a second fire blast in response, causing an explosion that sends Asta tumbling down, but he is saved by Finral. Fauna leers at Asta, infuriated that he keeps getting in their way, while Asta says he'll keep doing it as many times as it takes. Fauna's attack forces the bulls back, and Vanessa comments on the salamander's great power. Asta rallies his comrades, saying that Veto was far more dangerous. Meanwhile, Noel tries to put out several forest fires, but they keep reigniting. Asta tries to talk to Fauna, but she ignores him and attacks him with another fireball. However, he continues to insist on talking things through, and Fauna recalls her past at Lick's village, where he had a human friend. During a wedding, they are slaughtered by humans and blamed Lick's friend, as he was the only one who knew of their location. In the present, Fauna flies into a rage, reminded of why she fights. A third eye grows on her forehead and her salamander grows larger, which warns the Black Bulls of the dangers to come. Marielle and Domina try to lead the witches out to safety while they think of a way to handle a security golem still prowling the area. The intense heat knocks back the Black Bulls, the very magic field preventing Finral and Vanessa from properly casting their spells. Fauna attacks them once more, but they are saved by a sea dragon's cradle. Noel has arrived. The 4 escape on hastily assembled brooms, while Fauna harasses them with even more fire strikes. Noel decides she alone can defeat the salamander, and after shaking off voices of doubt in her head, she unleashes a sea dragon's roar. Fauna, recognizing the danger, blocks and dodges the blast, but Noel redirects her spell and the water dragon sinks its teeth into the salamander, weakening it greatly. They observe in shock as Fauna casts crystal and restoration magic, which Asta notices is the same magic Mars uses. He asks her if she has any siblings, to which she replies she has none but Licht and the village. With Vanessa and Finral's magic restored, they launch Asta towards Fauna with his special move, Bull Thirst, cutting right through the salamander. The Witch Queen is impressed by Asta's power, remarking that he wasn't bragging at all. She peers into her second orb and sees the invasion of the Diamond Kingdom. Fanzel tries to negotiate with his old students, Mars and Ladros, but both reject his calls to retreat. Ladros explains that their king, old and withered, wants to know the Witch Queen's secret to nigh immortality. Fanzel rushes towards their mage army, taking out multiple at once. Mohawk, the commander, tries to keep his units in formation. Mariella sneaks in several witches for an attack and later assassinates Mohawk. Meanwhile, Domina's work on the golems soon bear fruit. She has turned them into suicide attackers, blowing up droves of diamond mages. Ladros tries to intervene, but he is stopped by Fanzel. Mars approaches to support his comrade, but Fanzel, knowing he is no match for him in close quarters, blows him away. Seeing his former pupil become a crazed, bloodthirsty lunatic, he feels he has no choice but to kill him with his most powerful spell, Gale. The attack appears to ravage him, but to Fanzel's horror, Ladros simply absorbs the magic, then warns him to save those dear to him. Fanzel rushes to protect Domina as Ladros unleashes his million lasers across the battlefield, indiscriminately killing friend and foe alike. When the dust settles, Ladros picks up Domina and tries to kill her, but she is saved by Mars, who has remembered his old teachings of protecting the innocent. With Mars choosing to defect, Ladros relishes in an opportunity to kill his hated friend. After Mariella's failed attempt at assassinating Ladros, Mars carries her, Domina, and Fanzel away from him. Mars remarks that the only way to beat Ladros is either to overload him with magic, or to use anti-magic. Fanzel remarks that they have the latter and Mars reacts with surprise. Meanwhile, Asta and the bulls stare down an injured yet still powerful Fauna whose flames begin to burn brighter. Fanzel and Mars fly near Asta, and as Fauna unleashes a fireball, they have Asta deflect it towards them and they send it straight into Ladros. Salamander's magic proves to be too much for him to handle and he burns into a crisp. When they land, the bulls are wary of Mars' presence, but Fanzel and Mars reassure them that he is there to help. Mars looks towards Fauna and realizes that it is the same Fauna he was with all those years ago at the Diamond Kingdom's training grounds. It was he who was tragically forced to kill her, unable to fulfill their promise of seeing the world together. Mars tries reaching out to her, but she refuses to acknowledge them. With most of her magic spent, she resorts to activating her self-destruct magic, with an exasperated Finral wondering if all Midnight Sun members have some form of self-destruct built in. Fireballs begin shooting out of Fauna, but Mars refuses to defend himself, saying he has no right to. Asta knocks some sense into him, pointing out that dying here would solve nothing. With Finral and Vanessa's magic useless against Salamander's flames, Mars and Asta elect to charge in, but they begin to burn up due to the intense heat. Mars casts his phoenix robe on Asta to heal him, and the two reflect on their mutual respect. Mars looks upon Asta as the epitome of the magic knight, while Asta admires Mars' unwavering desire to protect. Asta manages to slice through her magical barrier with his sword, but the spell continues. Mars throws himself at Fauna and embraces her, reminding her of who she truly is. As memories flood back into her, she happily embraces Mars back, moving him to tears. Her third eye has disappeared and everyone breathes a huge sigh of relief. Mars and Fauna reunite and they thank Asta. Fauna is also happy that Mars has made a friend, which Asta happily reinforces. However, they learn that Fauna has lost her memories beyond being killed by Mars. She manages to remember Licht finding her discarded after failing to materialize anything with a magic stone given to her. Fauna continues to have a desire to obtain a magic stone in the witch's forest, and the group decide to retrieve it, but Fanzel suddenly warns everyone to get down as a million lasers obliterate the battlefield. Ladros has survived, having earlier feigned defeat, while Vanessa and Finral lie unconscious while Mars is knocked out while defending Fauna. Asta moves to face Ladros, but he backs away, knowing his anti-magic capabilities. He toys with Asta from afar, battering him with several lasers, knowing he has no means to close the gap without the help of his comrades. He believes that there are only two kinds of people in the world, users and the used, and he plans to use Mars and Fauna as stepping stones to climb even higher. However, suddenly the Demon Dweller sword slices through the air and stabs Ladros in the shoulder, crippling his ability to use magic, sending him crashing into the ground. He struggles to remove the sword and tries to trick Asta into removing it, but to no avail. He uses the last of his magic, remove the sword, and escape, taking Fauna hostage. He threatens her to release her salamander, lest he kill Mars. Once she does, he attempts to consume it, gifting him with power even greater than that of a spirit, according to Fanzel. Ladros remarks he could take on the entire Diamond Kingdom and begins peppering Asta with a barrage of lasers. Observing from afar, the Witch Queen uses her magic to reveal Asta's true nature, and a dark, malevolent energy begins swirling in his arm. After a battle with his inner demon, Asta emerges radically transformed. His right arm has been enveloped by black magic and he has grown a wing. Critically, he is now able to keep up with and exceed Ladros' speed. Now forced on the defensive, Ladros begins to flee. Meanwhile, the Witch Queen observes Asta battle with great interest and remarks that no one but Asta could wield the demon swords as they drain the user's magic. Instead, the anti-magic has been flowing into him, which he had been unconsciously putting a lid on. Through the witch's magic, that lid is gone and Asta has made its vessel. Ladros continues to run away, but Asta easily closes the gap, deflecting and parrying everything that is thrown his way. In a desperate move, Ladros attempts to use a powerful beam, but Asta defeats him with his new black meteorite. Ladros is defeated and his mage stone shatters. Noel is worried that Asta may have become more sinister, but is relieved to see him behave like his old self, as he lectures Ladros on taking responsibility for his actions. The demonic energy leaves Asta's body and he is suddenly overcome by pain all over. The Witch Queen teleports to their location. Asta eagerly tells her that they defeated both the Diamond Army and Eye of the Midnight Sun, which the Queen praises him for. He asks her to heal his friends, but she instead casts her blood magic, restraining everyone except him on a bloody cross. Using her magic, she controls Asta like a puppet, forcing him to draw his sword and healing him with her blood cocoon. She then gives Asta an opportunity to rampage and orders him to kill everyone present. To everyone's horror, Asta begins advancing on Noel first per the Queen's orders. To the Queen's shock, Asta manages to regain some semblance of control over himself, but the Queen reinforces her blood magic in Asta and forces him forward. Vanessa begs for mercy, but the queen refuses. She had allowed Vanessa to run free as her divinations foretold that she would eventually return with something she desired, but did not expect it to be two anti-magic weapons. She reasserts herself as Vanessa's mother and her only family. Vanessa recalls her past in being trapped in cage, prevented from seeing the outside world. Yami one day intrudes on the forest, going toe-to-toe with the queen, but unable to defeat her. He punches a hole into Vanessa's room and says that she is free to go. Vanessa hesitates, but decides to take flight, a bird now given the chance to fly, and joins the Black Bulls. Crying out to protect her family, she wishes for the power to change fate itself, and a new spell is recorded in her grimoire, the Red Thread of Fate, taking on the form of a playful cat. The queen, curious, tries to have Asta kill Noel, but when the cat touches him, he miraculously misses, even though it looked like she had died. The queen instead instructs Asta to cut down Finral instead, but the cat once again twists fate in Vanessa's favor. The cat then causes Asta to hit himself, cancelling out the effects of the blood magic, freeing him from the queen's control. Excited that Vanessa now has the power to control fate, the queen tries taking it for herself, activating the blood magic within Vanessa. However, the cat jumps and touches her, cancelling her magic. Vanessa approaches the queen, still in disbelief that her magic could be overcome, and says that her power to change fate will only be shared by those with whom she has a bond with, and she has no bond with her. The queen recalls a memory of Vanessa and she realizes that she had forgotten something far more important than perfection. Admitting defeat, she tells Vanessa she is free to do as she wishes. She then casts her blood recovery magic, healing everyone in the witch's forest. As the group miraculously recover, Asta excitedly begins exercising again, and Noel bashfully tells him to put on some clothes. As the queen walks away, Nero lands on her shoulder, pecking at her earring, and she curiously wonders about the bird. They later ask the queen about the magic stone the Midnight Sun were searching for, and she removes her earring and gives it to them, saying she has no use for it. She explains that the magic stones enhances the user's powers, but only those of the elf tribe could use them several centuries ago. She remarks that Fauna's third eye was a forbidden spell cast by someone else upon her, and hypothesizes that the Midnight Sun are made up of descendants of those elves. Finral readily writes all this information down. Lastly, the queen remarks that Asta's swords were once owned by the leader of those elves, which is the nail in the coffin for an information overload, and he faints. Outside, everyone prepares to bid each other farewell. Mars and Ladros will return to the Diamond Kingdom. Fanzel, Domina, and Mariella will take care of Fauna. Mars promises to Fauna that they will see the world together one day, eliciting hoots from the crowd and jealous cries from Finral. As they prepare to leave, the queen says that Vanessa is free to visit any time, and she walks away without a word. Mars bids Asta goodbye, reaffirming their bond as friends. Asta, Finral, and Vanessa return to their base, where Yami greets them unenthusiastically. They present him with a magic stone, and he excitedly tells Asta to get him some alcohol. Upon returning, he is instructed to rest. The other Black Bulls return one by one, having radically transformed personalities, but they revert to normal upon seeing Asta's arms are healed. Using the food Charmy brought back, Yami prepares a feast but bosses Asta into performing several household chores. Vanessa recalls the queen's words to visit her homeland anytime she wants, but she strips down to her underwear and declares that the Black Bulls is where she feels the most home. At the Golden Dawn base, Klaus, Mimosa, and Yuno read the reports regarding the Black Bull's exploits in the Witch's Forest. Klaus and Mimosa are glad that Asta's arms are okay, but Yuno is quite indifferent. Klaus has called his proteges over to study the reports about the Midnight Sun to prepare for any eventual battle against the group. Their first appearance was during their attack on the capital, where the Magic Knights battled fiercely to contain the droves of undead. It was here that they isolated and nearly killed Fugolian, taking his pendant in the process. Reading another report, the Black Bulls once again encountered their presence in Neen when Yami was narrowly saved by 3 squad captains against the Third Eye. It was here that the kingdom first discovered the Midnight Sun's aim to collect the magic stones to place into a certain stone tablet. Likewise, the Black Bulls faced off against Veto in the underwater temple, where they defeated him and prevented another magic stone from falling into the Midnight Sun's hands. Lastly, Klaus reads the latest report detailing the events of the Witch's Forest, revealing that the elves of old are involved with the magic stones, which Mimosa and Yuno were led to believe were only myths. After finishing reading, they reaffirm their mission to defend the king from any and all threats. Meanwhile, Yami delivers the queen's magic stone to Julius, and he later praises the Black Bulls for once again for achieving stellar feats, and Yami dryly remarks that they could use some more golden stars. Julius does his best to ignore the comment and says that they were able to find the Midnight Sun's base, but warns that they have made preparations to make their next move. Dressed in a traditional happy coat, Yami tells the Black Bulls of an upcoming festival. Asta is excited and Noel has Finral explain what the festival is. Finral says that the magic squads compete for the most stars every year and the winner is announced during the festival. Noel remarks that they'd be fighting for last place anyway, but Yami proudly corrects her. They are dead last without a contest. The Black Bulls head out to the festival and go about their own way. Asta has Finral bring over Kahono and Kayato. Asta asks Kayato if he brought his leg and upon confirming that he did, opens a flask filled with the Witch Queen's magic. It pours out, healing Kayato's leg and restoring Kahono's voice. The song and dance of the sea is alive once more. They thank Asta profusely for healing them and Kahono immediately sings a song which enchanting those around them. Magna arrives and invites Asta to help him with his fireworks but assumes that their group is out on a double date. Wanting to goad Noel into admitting her feelings for Asta, Kahono decides to make it one. She links arms with Asta, driving Noel insane while Kayato assumes that the double date is for him to get closer with Noel. After a while, Kahono is irritated that Noel is so indecisive and decides to bring them into a haunted house together, planning to use his cronies to scare girls his way. Sek instead causes Noel and Asta to panic, thinking the zombies have returned. After leaving the haunted house, Kahono realizes that Asta is far too dense and asks him what he feels about Noel. But just then a crying child begins annoying festival goers and they assume it must be a peasant child. Noel tries to calm her down and with a small performance set up by her and the others, the child stops crying. Kahono uses her voice to call out the child's parent, and a mother comes to claim her child, thanking them for watching over her. However, the mother sees that Noel is royalty, causing her to bow her head, but Noel reassures her that the festival is for anyone and everyone to enjoy. Recalling Kohana's question, Asta says that he likes Noel quite a bit, an answer that turns Noel beet red. She blasts Asta away with her magic, making him wonder what he did wrong, while Kahono laments that if Asta is too dense then Noel is not honest. When Asta lands, he sees Yami and Jack the Ripper in a showdown and wonders what they could possibly be fighting over. And this brings the anime to an end. Comment for part 7. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.